So I can't believe it. I'm sitting here on my bedroom floor recording this episode in my pajamas because it is the 2 year anniversary of this podcast. I look back to last year and I remember recording in advance a big reflection episode to celebrate the 1 year anniversary. And I remember the time and the effort that went into it. But this year, I actually had forgotten it was today until a Facebook memory came up and reminded me. So I guess this is my off the cuff acknowledgement, a mini episode, a bonus episode. I don't know what to call it. But this is it. It's not going to be very polished and I don't think it's going to be very long, but here we go. Firstly, I want to thank every single person who has tuned in and listened, even if it's one episode. If it's every episode, I'm sure you're sick of my voice by now, but it really means a lot that I've been able to share the guests' journeys and their stories and the lessons they've learned with you. And I hope it would make an impact, or you've taken something from at least one of the episodes, if not all of them. But I wanted to really reflect on, I guess, like where I thought this podcast would go when I first started versus what it's kind of formed into or what it's shaped into naturally. When I first started, I wanted it to be something to show the importance of sport, I guess the fluffy side and the bright and sparkly side, and what you could learn from it and the benefits it had. I've really discovered that to get the highs and to get the lessons, there's got to be some lows, and it's not just about the highs. It's not even just about, well, it's always not been about the competition, but it's not just the highs. It's more so the harder moments or the darker moments that no one sees that builds character, that builds resilience, that builds, all these lessons or teaches you all these lessons that make you who you are. And I think I had forgotten that somewhere when I first started this podcast. I think that deep down I knew that, but that was never the overall intention. However, I think it's actually super important, and it's probably something that I'd like to explore more. So it's been a real privilege to share some of the really tough things like mental health, like anxiety. People have shared stories or shared their journey with eating disorders and body image struggles and over exercising. People have, let us into those dark moments where they didn't think that they'd continue with their sport and how they found their passion or how they went retiring. And then there's also other issues like domestic violence and how sport can positively or negatively impact that. And I just feel so grateful to all the guests who have shared their story and their journey and opened up about the not so sparkly side of sport and the hard part where people don't really get to see that and they don't get to know about those hard times. And after each one of those episodes, I get so much feedback about how the guest has opened up about a certain struggle and how it's helped them overcome something or even just feel more heard and seen. And I think that is the special part of this podcast, is that it can make you feel heard and seen, or it can make someone feel heard and seen. Yeah, it's a real privilege to be able to share that. And in saying that, like, if you've been here from the beginning, you'll probably know that this podcast used to come out weekly, and this year it hasn't really as much. We've only done 16, 17 episodes, but I look at the lessons that I've learnt this year and the lessons in life this year, or even just keeping a podcast going, even if it's every second week, every third week. And yeah, the fact that it hasn't been easy, the fact that it's been an uphill battle, but there's still been people out there that have been positively impacted by it, and it feels really fulfilling. I guess like some of the highlights in the last year, because I don't want to be all doom and gloom, have been interviewing some athletes who were my childhood heroes. That was really cool. Also, there's been a significant jump in the audience from the USA. Shout out to those listeners. I don't know what it is. Is it just you guys laughing at my Aussie accent? But thank you for tuning in. And also seeing the incredible work people are doing in the community using sport as a tool to do so. I think that is one of the intentions I always did have in the podcast for this podcast, is to showcase some of the amazing things people do within sport or using sport to help other people, because sport can sometimes be a little bit of a selfish thing, but it's got so many great things in there as well. And I wanted to showcase the different ways that people could use sport to better themselves, but also better others. Another final thought that I've probably been reminded of this year is, just because someone's a good athlete or the best athlete doesn't make them a good person. But also, on the other hand, you don't have to be the best athlete to make a difference in the community. Some of the people out there are just everyday humans making a difference and making an impact because they love sport and they love the community. And I think that is one of the most powerful things. Like, it doesn't need to be your sporting hero making that big difference. Like, it can be that random person down the street who watches every footy game. And I think exploring that. So if you know anyone out there making a significant impact to their community using sport to do so, or in the sporting world, then please do let me know. Like, don't limit it to Olympians or Paralympians or national champions, because I want to speak to the everyday person. I want to see what they're doing within their community. And I think that's where some of the special stories are, is the ones that we don't know about and we don't hear about, you know, when the Com Games come up or when the Olympics come up. Of course, there's some incredible journeys there, but I think there's many, many more that we don't hear about, and I want to share them. I guess this wraps up the 2-year reflection, the mini 2-year reflection. I'd just like to, again, thank every single listener, every single guest, and remind you all to check out the Instagram page, the Facebook page. There's a TikTok, not very good. There's a YouTube channel, also not the best. But check them out. Make sure you follow, subscribe, do all of those things so that you don't miss new episodes dropping. In saying that, at the end of this month, we will be wrapping up season 3 of the podcast. So the scheduled episodes for the year will be done. There might be a sneaky bonus one or two. We'll just see how we go. But I am in need of some rest. But we're going to call this the podcast off season. But thank you again, everyone who listens. It really means so much. And if you do find that you've missed it or you've missed me and you haven't listened to every single one, there's more than 80 episodes out now to go listen to. And I promise there's a lesson in every single one of them. So that's enough from me. Until next time.